Okay, it's 11 a.m. here, so I'm going to make a start. Good morning, my name is Mary O'Brien, and you're very welcome to today's webinar, where we're going to look to use FME to transform almost anything. So to start, just with a little background on ourselves here at One Spatial. We're a spatial solutions provider, and we have offices across the globe, with our headquarters here in the UK in Cambridge. And we work with customers within a number of key industry sectors like utilities, transport and engineering, and all levels of government. We have a number of key technology partners that we work with, and the one we're interested in here today is our partnership with Safe Software, the producers of the FME products. So we've been working with and reselling FME for quite a while. We provide support for all of the FME products, so FME Desktop, FME Server and FME Cloud. And we also incorporate FME into our own solutions, so we're a development partner also. We have a team of skilled FME people, many of them certified with SAFE, so we can help you really with any FME related questions or problems you might have. So if you want to get in touch with us, it's fme@onespatial.com. We provide a number of services around FME, so if you're new to the product and you're thinking, oh, this looks kind of interesting, it might be really useful for me, then do get in touch. We can help you, with that product evaluation or help you with building a business case. We also provide training to help you get you up and running with FME. And if you need more help, then we can offer you some one-to-one mentoring time, or we can simply build a solution for you as part of a consultancy engagement. So there's lots of options to suit every scenario. So if you're interested, or if you're having any problems getting started with FME or getting the most from your existing FME workflows, then please do get in touch. It's fme@onespatial.com, and I'm pretty sure we can help. And then finally, if you're on active AMC with us, so that's the annual maintenance contract, then you're entitled to upgrades each year as they're released, and you also have access to our support team, so you've got lots of expertise to draw upon. So as I said, contact us on fme@onespatial.com, and we'll be able to help. So here's the plan for today. We're talking about transforming data, and in FME, to do that, we're talking about using transformers. So we'll start by explaining what they are and where we can find them, and then we'll look at some examples. So we'll break out to FME Desktop and look at a couple of demos that I've prepared. And that's going to be the focus for this session. So it's kind of a tutorial style webinar. We're going to walk through how we can transform pretty much anything using transformers in FME. And then we'll look a little more at some of the detail around transformers, specifically how we can access improvements and enhancements. And then I'm going to share some resources with you at the end that you can access. Okay, so transformers. These are the building blocks that we use to develop and build a logical workflow in FME. So this is an FME workspace or a workflow, and this is how it's represented in FME Desktop. So if you're new to FME and not familiar with this, generally speaking, data is read in here on the left hand side, then data is manipulated and transformed using these transformers, and then it's written out here on the right. So the blue building blocks that we can see here, these are the transformers. And they're like modules of code. So each transformer performs a specific task, whether it's like building lines like the line builder, or creating attributes like the attribute creator. And then we connect these transformers together to pass data along a workflow. And that's essentially how we transform data in FME. So there are lots and lots of transformers. I think the current count is 498. But we can find them here in the transformer gallery. We can see that, there's 544. We've got them categorized into different categories, and you can search for them here, double click on them and put them on the screen. Or we can, when we're familiar with what we know or what we want, we can search for them by typing directly on the canvas, and we bring up this list that gets filtered the more we type. So for example, if I choose a geometry filter, and I can then add it to my workflow. Just undo that. So that's how we access the transformers. We just pop back to my slides. Okay, so another really useful resource, especially if you're new to FME, is the online version of the transformer gallery. So if we just pop to here, so this gives us a listing again of all of the transformers, and we can see them by their groups. We can see sort them alphabetically. Perhaps more importantly is sorting them by rank, so we can see the most popular transformers. So the tester transformer is the number one most used, most popular transformer. So really helpful here. We can go and access the documentation or the help, but also we can get other similar transformers or transformers that other people have used. So if we're not able to find exactly we're not familiar enough with the names yet, you can search in here and you might find it off the similar list. And then you've also got links down here to resources from the FME community website, so articles, demos and so on, that might be helpful to you also. So really useful resource, lots of information on here. And the key thing, I guess, with using FME is knowing which transformers to use. So there's 500 odd transformers here. You don't need to know all of these, and we'd probably suggest that the thing to do would be to get familiar with the top 20 on here, because these are the ones most people are using. So in all likelihood they're the ones you're going to want to use also. So yeah, good place to come when you've got some spare time on a lunch break or something, is come and read through these and get familiar with them. Okay. Another reference is the transformer reference guide. So again, it's the same information, because transformers really are key to FME and being able to use it. So this is a PDF version. We used to print it out and give it to customers at events like our FME World Tour. Always very, very popular. We've now got it available from our website. You can go to the link here as a PDF version, so you can scan through that in your lunch break, or print it out and use it for some light bedtime reading whenever you get some headspace, really. But it's a nice format where you've got a listing and a very short a brief explanation, but nice diagrams and so on as well. So personally, I find this really invaluable with just searching quickly for transformers. The diagrams really help me. Okay, so we're going to switch then to look at some examples of transforming data. So we're going to look first to transform attributes, and by attributes I mean the data values. So I've just thrown up on screen here some of the transformers that I tend to use. I've just identified what rank they are on the popularity list. So you can see some of the number 2 here, the attribute creator, really commonly used, really helpful. Some of these we'll find have now been superseded almost by something like the attribute manager. So the attribute manager kind of combines the logic of a bunch of these transformers here on the left hand side into just this one transformer. So there are lots and lots of different transformers. The names tend to indicate exactly what they do, but you do need to just watch out for some like Americanized spelling, so using Z's instead of S's and so on when you're searching for them. So yeah, I've mentioned the attribute manager as one to watch out for. Another one I'd mention would be the feature merger. So that's a transformer that you use to merge your data, so to perform, let's say, a classic join between data sets. That's one to look out for. And also its newer sibling, let's say, the feature joiner. It's kind of the super speedy little brother or little sister. So you can see it's not quite as popular, but that's probably just to do with the fact that people tend to use what they know. So the feature merger has been around for many a year. So it's always helpful to keep up to date. So join us on webinars. Also join the FME community. That's the user base across the globe. And I've got details on that in the resources at the end for you. What else? Just a couple of others really to throw out to you. We've got some list transformers here, and lists are a nested structure of data values, and that's how FME deals with complex data structures. So there's a whole bunch of transformers that deal specifically with lists. So if you search just for list, you'll find loads of them. And really just a special shout out, I guess, for the schema mapper. Okay, so it's one of my favourite transformers, but also one of my pet hates, let's say. So if you need to do any data migration, mapping data between different systems, then the schema mapper is definitely one to investigate. It's extremely powerful, but it is rather tricky to use. And that's why I think it's relatively low here on the ranking. But as I mentioned, check out the FME community, loads of examples on there, including examples that will help you with using some of the more complex transformers. Okay, so we're going to break out to FME now and look at an example where we're transforming some attributes. So let me just grab that one. So we've got a reader here which is reading in some Excel data. I'm just going to go and show you what that data looks like. So it's just an Excel sheet with some address lines in it. We've got some telephone numbers. We've got some just numeric purchase information and some date information. So lots of different types of data, let's say. And we're going to use some transformers now to manipulate that data. Okay, so I'm going to run this with caching on. Oops, no, not. And this is new in the last couple of releases of FME, which just means when you run the workflow, you can cache the data at each stage, and view that data. So click on the little green icon and I'll get a view down here of the data as it's been read at that point in the workflow. So first transformer we're going to use is the tester. It's the most popular, but just to show you what it looks like. So let's say I'm going to do some validation here. So I want to check that my data is good. So I'm going to perhaps check that the ID is greater than 0. So it's going to be an integer value. But you can see here also, and this is new for 2020, that now because we've run with the caching, we can actually access that cached information. So we're getting what are the unique values that exist in the data set for ID. Let's say I also want to check that perhaps address 2 is populated. So I can use a logical and I've got lots of different operations. This one's really useful with checking that an attribute has a value. So tester, very, very powerful. You can see it can build up really quite complex, well, very simple one here, but you've got lots of options and lots of operators to build up really quite complex tests in here. So if I continue on from there, so another transformer. So I can see here 9 of my features have passed and 1 has failed because it's got address 2 missing. So I move on words, and another transformer that's useful is the attribute validator. So this is going to allow me to perform lots of different tests on attributes. So you can see I'm checking perhaps the data type, that it's numeric, check I've got values, check that they're unique, and so on. So really useful transformer. Continuing on here, then we've got a string searcher. So it's going to allow me to search inside a string. So in this case, I'm checking the phone number for its syntax. So checking it using a regex, checking that it's a particular combination of numbers and white space. And here again we can see which features have passed and which features have failed that test. And then I've got another example here, which is a UK postcode validator, and this is a custom transformer that we've built and made available on the FME Hub, so you can just download it and access it. But again, we're telling it to check the postcode, and then it's identifying one of these is invalid and 4 of them pass on. So just different transformers, each transformer doing its own little job, passing the data on, filtering it by the different ports. So another transformer that's useful for manipulating attributes, we've got the string concatenator. So we're going to concatenate those address strings together, put commas and spaces between them all, to create a new attribute called full address. And then just another popular one we might want to do is to then edit the case. So instead of things now being uppercase, we're going to make them all full title case. And we can see the results down here. So we've got our full address now all strung together and title cased. Okay, so some other transformers, other ways that we can transform this data might be to map the product codes to some product names. So we had that the product code was 1, 2, 3. we might want those to actually map across to what the product names are, whether it's cola bottles or white mice or whatever. So we can simply do that there. We can also pull that information from a CSV file, so it can be stored externally or stored in a database, and anything like that. Very helpful. And then finally, the attribute keeper. So this is a really useful transformer because it's allowing you to get rid of all of the accumulated information that you've created from each of these logical steps and keep just the ones that we're interested in. And we've kind of got our tidied up information there. Okay, so we can see that each transformer is doing one particular task, and we're connecting them together and moving them along the workflow. So, oops, if I just enable this here and look at an alternative approach for that. So the attribute manager I mentioned earlier as one to really look for, and within this one transformer we can combine all of the logic that we've performed in this set of transformers here. So it's really quite a powerful transformer and a useful way to manipulate your data. So we can see all of the data that's come into the transformer, and then we can perform different tasks on it. So say for example, I can use the text editor to again concatenate together all of those address lines, and also use a function to set them to full title case. Within the same transformer, I can also perform a test on the phone. So I've got conditional values here. So the phone number, remember I used a regex to test it. I can perform that same test within here. So checking that the phone contains the same regex, and if it does, I will output the phone value, and otherwise, if it does, so if it fails that test, then I want to make the value null. So I've got another option here. I'm using conditional values to also replicate the code mapping. So if my product code is 1, then I want it to be cola bottles. If it's 2, I want it to be white mice, and so on. And just a final example to show you. So we've got text editing, conditional values, but also arithmetic editing, so like mathematical editing the numbers. And here, you can use any of your math functions. There's lots of them to choose on, but I've just chosen to get the absolute. So if there's any negatives there, it'll just interpret them, or not interpret them, it will change them to be positives. So all of that logic is now being managed within this one transformer, along with things like removing the attributes. So I'm doing my tidy up, I no longer need these, setting values, renaming things, and so on. So if we run my workspace and have a look at my data here, you can see it's a lot more efficient, and it's easier to now manage it all within the one transformer. So attribute managers, definitely one to look out for. Okay, so in our data file we also had some date time data. So let's look at some ways that we can transform that kind of data in FME. And we've got special transformers for that. So we've got, if you search for date time, you'll come across them. We've got the date time converter. So this allows you alter the interpretation, so that the format or the syntax of it. So we've set it just to year, month, date with hyphens in between. So if I run that, we'll see that the purchase date is now easier to interpret, easier to read. And then there's the date time calculator, and this is where things can get quite complex. You can do quite a lot within this transformer, but it's all related to date time data. So here I'm calculating the interval between date times. So what I'm looking to do here is, let's say there's a 12-month renewal on the products that have been purchased, and I want to calculate, well, how many days are left to that 12-month renewal. So I'm doing an interval between two date times. The start date is now, so I'm using a function to calculate today's date, and then I'm using another function to calculate the end date, and the end date is going to be the purchase date plus 1 year. And then I'm putting my answer into a renewal countdown attribute, and then just rounding the answer here. So you can see I've got 29 days to renew, 14 days, no days, and so on. So these are a little, very contrived examples, but it's just to try and show you different transformers and different ways that you can transform different types of data. So something that will generally be quite useful then with attribute data is the sorter. So the sorter transformer is just allowing you to sort numerically or alphabetically, ascending or otherwise, and that's just sorting that data for us. So the closest to renewal is being pushed to the top, and then I can write that out to a CSV file or whatever I need to. So hopefully that just gives you a flavour of some of the types of transformations that we might typically do with attribute data, and highlight some of the transformers that you might want to use to do that. Okay, so if I pop back to my slides, I'm going to look now at transforming geometry. So this is where FME tends to be unique or special in that it has great abilities to work with spatial data. So again, here's just a selection of transformers that you might want to look at. They do pretty much what their name implies. So the vertex creator creates vertices or point geometries. The geometry filter, well, that's pretty useful one actually. That lets you filter your data by geometry types. So you can perform different processing then on different geometry types afterwards. The tiler, that lets you chop your data into tiles. The dissolver, generalizer, intersector, they're all doing the geometric operations that their name implies to transform your data. So again, let's look at an example. We're going to break out to FME, and here we're going to build some line geometry from some coordinates that are stored in an Excel file, and then we're going to use that line to build a cross section for a raster tile. So again, quite contrived, but just trying to show you functionality and show you different transformers. Okay, so that's this example here. So I'm going to read in some data, some coordinates that I've got in an Excel file, and you'll note here that I'm actually using a transformer itself to read the data. So it's reading in my file the cross-section input. So I can use the cache to see what this data looks like. Okay, so you can see I've got some starting XYs and some ending XYs for my lines. And this is just a really common thing that people need to do, so I thought I'd talk you through a couple of transformers that do it. So coordinate system setter, so this is going to set the coordinate system. because we've read it in from Excel. Obviously that's not spatial. And then the vertex creator we're going to use to create the start point. And then a clever shortcut is to use the vertex creator again, but to add a point. So we're adding a point to the previous point, thereby creating a line. So at this point now we've got our lines. We can see line geometry here. And then just for this demo, I'm just going to identify, just keep one of those. This is just one of them that I'm interested in. So some geometry transformation, some transformers that we're using. So we're going to use the densifier to create vertices on our line, like on our 2-point line, create them every half a meter. And then I'm going to use the chopper to chop that line into points. So again, running to this point, and I can see, if I zoom in here, that my line has now been chopped into points at half-meter intervals. And we've got 400 of those. So, sorry, I'll just enable some of these things to and set this running from here. Okay, so now I've got a raster tile. It's just a TIFF file. You'd probably want to use like an elevation file. The principle is the same. I'm now using a point on raster value extractor. So this is to extract the value from the raster where each point interacts with it. So I've got 400 points, and wherever those 400 points intersect the raster, I'm going to pull out the raster values. So if I had an elevation grid, it would be the elevation value. In this case, I'm getting some red, green and blue values. So if I look in my feature information window, I can make this smaller. I've now got some raster values that my points have picked up. Okay, but really quite powerful. I guess we don't talk a whole lot about rasters, but I've brought them in here sort of under the guise of geometry. If you're working with raster data, there are a whole set of transformers specifically for that data. If you search for raster on the transformer gallery, you'll see there's lots and lots of rasters doing lots and lots of different transformations for you. So in particular, say the raster cell value calculator, raster expression evaluator, allowing you to manipulate the data and do calculations and transformations. Okay, so I'm now using the attribute creator just to expose those red, green and blue values. And then because I'm building a cross-section line, I'm using the raster value. So in my case, I'm going to use red as the Z element, let's say. So I'm using a 3D forcer to enforce that. I then want to join all my dots back up together. So I'm using a point, or a line builder to do that. So if we look at my output, it's not showing it the way I thought. And let's say then I want to extract this geometry, and this is really just to indicate another transformer that's really quite useful. So this is taking geometry and extracting it into different encodings. So in this case, I've gone for OGC well-known text, and I've now got out all the coordinates, so those 400 coordinates that make up that line string with their Z values included. So you can now output that to some non-spatial format if you need. So really quite powerful way. So that's just an example of some geometry transformation that you can do, and just to try and highlight some transformers that may be of interest. Okay, if I can find my way back to my slides. Okay, just one a final example. So another example really just of showing you some different transformers. So this time, combining geometry and attribute manipulation, and creating a HTML page, so a web-based report from it. So let's just take a look at that one. So here we've got a road network that we're reading in, and we've got some libraries, and our focus, I guess, is on the libraries. We're looking to build a report, a library report, HTML page. So I'm just going to run this, and while it's running I can talk about it. So there's different types of transformation happening here. So we've got some geometry manipulation, so we're building a line between all of the libraries, and then that's going into this shortest path finder transformer. So really useful. It's going to calculate the shortest road journey, so journey along the road network that we're giving it, and find the shortest path between all the libraries that we've identified here. Reprojector transformer, so that's another useful one to know about. Here we're reprojecting our data into lat longs, and that's because it's going to be needed for Google Maps. So we're going to have a Google Maps on our library report. In fact, let me show you the library report and make it easier. So this is what we're producing. So from the road network and a file of library locations, we're producing a report with information on the libraries and their stats, displaying that as a graph, and then also showing a map with the shortest route between them all. So that is being made possible through these transformers here. So we've got a HTML report generator. So this is a good one to be aware of if you want to generate any HTML pages, and we can see it's quite simple to do. So we're passing different pieces of information in, like the titles, but importantly we're generating a map here, and then we've got another copy of that transformer here, but this time we're creating tables and we're creating the chart here. So both those flows of data are then coming in here and getting sorted on their report ID. The other useful transformer related to this one is the HTML layouter, so just enabling us to order those on the page. So I guess just the idea that from a road network and a point file of libraries, we've been able to transform the data so it's almost unrecognizable in a way. We're producing a web-based report with tables, graphs, and maps on in a repeatable workflow like this. Okay, so if I find my way back to my slides, yes, I guess one final thought before I move on is just that we've been focusing on transforming or changing the data, and that's the point of today's webinar. But maybe what you might need to do is identify where change has happened in your data, and you can use FME to do that too. And the transformer to look at is the change detector. That's going to help you out there. And that brings me on just to my next point, which is that the change detector has been overhauled recently, in 2019. So it now identifies updates as well as inserts and deletes. So it's got 3 distinctions, let's say, of change. And it's just one of a number of transformers that has changed, and transformers do change over time. Generally improvements, to make things more user-friendly, or to take advantage of new technology. And over the last few years, we've seen enhancements like the ability to change the port order on transformers, so you don't get crossing flow lines. Transformer dialogues have been standardized. We can now copy and paste test clauses between transformers, and as we saw earlier, the latest addition is the ability to select data values within those clauses. As part of the standardization and generally user friendliness, there's been like a consolidation of functionality. So most notably the attribute manager, which we looked at earlier, and it combines the functionality of many transformers now, so really powerful. There have also been changes or upgrades to specific transformers, and these are generally to make them work more efficiently. So with more transformers receiving upgrades with each release, it's kind of an ongoing process. And new for this year, so FME 2020, we've got a new and improved statistics calculator. So it's much faster, so it's really worth understanding how transformer versioning and upgrades work in FME, just to make sure that you're using the most efficient version in your workflows. And that's what I wanted to just show you finally today. Finish with this really. So yeah, as I mentioned, with each release, some transformers will have been upgraded, and these get a new version number. And to see that version number for transformers, you just need to toggle it on from the FME options dialog box. So you can see it here. It's off by default, so do go have a look at where that is. Okay, so if I show you here, so with that on, we now get the version information in any summary annotation. If we hover over a transformer, you'll now get that information also, and it's also available here in the navigation window. You see there's a whole section on upgradable transformers. Okay, so in this example, I've got an old workspace. It was built in FME 2018. You can see here the last saved build. And if I run this workspace, I'm using the statistics calculator. It's kind of calculating on the area value, the min, the max, and the sum. Okay, so that has done its job, and it's taken 17 seconds. Wow, it's slower than it was. Okay, so if I was to look at adding the statistics calculator, so this is within FME 2020, you can see that it's currently at version 10. So to upgrade my transformer here, then I can simply right click and go upgrade the transformer. It's also telling me the latest version as well. So when I go to upgrade, it shows me this is what I've currently got, version 7. This is what I can change to version 10. So we can see it looks quite different. It's been re-engineered under the bonnet as well as in the interface. And if I run my workspace now, you can see that's completed, yeah, a lot quicker, 7.6 seconds. So it's more than halved the processing time, so it's a lot faster. So definitely one to look at. So if I flick back to my slides, yeah, so we've just upgraded the statistics calculator. Yeah, and this is how enhancements are added to FME transformers. So you've got versions, and the numbers increase with each new version. And they're supplied as part of the standard set of transformers that come with the FME release. But new for 2020, we've now got packages where transformers are also can also be enhanced in this way. So packages are a way of getting enhancements to FME components, and that's independent of the FME release cycle. So you don't need to do an install of the latest FME release. You just install the package. Those components can be formats, web connections, or transformers, and I guess it's the transformers that we're interested in today. And they came about really because of changing connections for different web services all the time. So these were changing all the time, and you don't have to wait for the next release, which could be months away. So Safe really have kind of decoupled some of the components, so they can now deliver upgrades more quickly within a package. So you simply download the package, double click to install it on your current FME install, and away you go. You've got it then. That upgraded component is now available for you to use. So it's new this year, and say watch this space, but actually the space to watch is this, the FME Hub. So if you just keep an eye on this is where you can find all of the packages as they're released. So you can filter for packages and see them here. You'll see the most recent one is the Sharepoint online connector, and that's a new transformer that enables you to connect to Sharepoint and download or upload data. And then once you know what you're looking for, you can search for it in the normal way on the canvas, and you'll note it's got a special icon depicting that it's a package, a little box package. Once you have installed it, it's then available and looks the same as just a standard transformer in that search pane. But there is a special icon for it then when you use it on the canvas, so it's this kind of web net icon here. And you can of course have multiple packages, so you just manage all of these through your FME options, and you can see which packages you've got installed. You can add them, remove them, and update them as you need to. Also from the hub you can search for more transformers, so there's more transformers here for you to use. These are custom transformers that either Safe or other users in the community have built and shared. So earlier I mentioned the UK postcode validator transformer. You can find that here. So these transformers are not part of the standard product, so they do come with a bit of a health warning, but you can access them very easily in the same way. And again, just note their special icon, and they appear again differently, so green on the canvas. And yeah, just wrapping up really, there's loads of resources available for you from the web, so I'd really urge you to look at the FME community. That's the place to go. There's lots of articles, examples, demos, forums. If you're looking to get started with some examples, then search for tutorial, and you'll get lots of transformation and examples returned for you to try. Also check out our webinars like this one today. We've got a calendar of upcoming webinars, and we've also got training coming up, so there's lots of resources out there for you. Or, as I said, just drop us an email on fme@onespatial.com. And then if you're looking for more formal support, well, if you're already on active FME maintenance and support with us, then you can contact us on support@onespatial.com, and that will get through to our support desk, where our FME team can help you out. So that's it really for today. Just wanted to end with letting you know or reminding you about our Smarter Data, Smarter World conference coming up in a couple of weeks, so the 9th to the 12th of November. It's online this year, and you can register by going to the website link here. So the agenda has just been finalised at the moment, but essentially Tuesday the focus is on government, Wednesday the spotlight is on transport, and Thursday it's looking at utilities. So I'd urge you to go take a look. The speakers are listed on there at the moment, and you register if you're interested in that. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for your time this morning.